I'm so glad you're here. I'm Kate Champion. I'm an author, therapist, and generally curious human whose life has been full of ups and downs, twists and turns, mess and adventures, some intentional and some not so much. Welcome to Living Big Mindfully, a later in life podcast. Here are 3 questions for you. Are you ready? Are you in midlife or beyond? Or maybe struggling with next steps or finding your feet? Possibly feeling like something's missing, not quite right with your life? Or maybe you have a sense that you're really not living your own truth. Okay, you're right, that was way more than 3 questions. But were there any yes answers? Yeah? Okay, fantastic. That means that you are in the right place and this is the show for you. So grab a seat, get comfy, and join us for inspiring, heartfelt conversations. Conversations with real people just like you and me. Listen in as we chat about life, love, health, healing, and thriving well into our later years. And let's commit to creating honest, fulfilling lives and giving a high five to living big mindfully. One more thing. Make sure you visit katechampionauthor.com. Check out Never Too Late and You Are Limitless, my best-selling books. And while you're there, be sure to download your free hiking guide. And remember, check out our Living Big Mindfully community on Facebook. And please share your favorite episode with your friends. Thank you so much. Okay, that is enough for me. Are you ready? Great. Then let's dive in. Today on Living Big Mindfully, we are having a few laughs as we explore pee, poop, periods, and much more with outdoor advocates Becca and Dani Titterton. Becca and Dani are a mother and daughter team, and they're both avid hikers and passionate about leaving no trace, keeping our trails clean, and normalizing personal hygiene needs while outdoors. Whether you are female, male, a day hiker, a backpacker, new to the trail, or a seasoned trail rat, this conversation has something for everyone. Becca and Dani start out with a bit about their personal stories and how their company, Your Yuckies, was born. And then we dive into the fun stuff. So strap in and get ready to laugh and learn as we unpack how to handle pee, poop, periods, trash, and general personal hygiene needs while out on the trail. And then we talk about prepping and planning for your trip. We discuss products, the pros, the cons, and we share some of our personal experiences and preferences. Then we take a deep dive into the leave no trace principles and why following these guidelines is so important. This conversation is full of fun, creative tips and strategies. And as always, the show notes will have links so you can access the resources and everything you need to help you along your way. Our hope is by sharing this fun, open, honest conversation is that you'll feel empowered and supported and comfortable enough to really get out and explore the great outdoors, no matter where you are in your journey. Enjoy! Good morning. How are you? Welcome.
Hi, Kate. Thank you so much for having us today. I'm Dani, and I'm here with my business partner and daughter, Becca.
Hi, thanks for having us. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, so Dani and Becca, I connected with them on Instagram. I believe that's right. They have this really cool product. And we're really going to talk today about trail stuff, hiking stuff, and we're going to talk about poo and periods and pee and all of that great stuff. And I have a totally bathroom sense of humor, so I'm all about talking about that kind of stuff. I know it sounds crazy. At 60 years old, I have like a 5-year-old bathroom humor, but it's all good. So tell me a little bit about you guys and what you're doing, and first of all, how you developed the business, and then a little bit about the project, but who you are as women, because I know that you spend a lot of time out hiking, backpacking together. So tell me a little bit about that. Whoever wants to go first, jump in.
Yeah, sure. I'll start. So, as a family, we've always enjoyed spending time in the outdoors. All my kids learned to ski really early in Vermont, and all of our summers were spent, exploring hidden Vermont water holes, lakes, trails, kayaking. So, when Becca was, I think, about 10 years old, she was part of a soccer team. And one of her friend's grandmother invited all the moms and daughters on a 3-day hike in the Mount Washington area of the White Mountains in New Hampshire, where she lived. And the plan was to hike up along the Franconia Ridge to Mount Washington. And we were going to stay 2 nights in 2 of the AMC huts that were there. And we had absolutely no idea what to expect. Maybe it was better that way. But Grandma Jane was a wonderful mentor, and she had brought a lot of newbies up to the area and introduced people to backpacking. And she made sure we were very safe and had all of our gear. So we went, and we had spectacular weather, which we found out later is usually not the case because Mount Washington is notorious for bad weather. But we lucked out. We thought it was always like that. We had a great time, and ever since that we were hooked. That same group came back for the next 4 years, 4 summers in a row. We went and we finished all of the AMC huts, and it was a wonderful memory. And I think that this is really what set us on this backpacking journey together. That Becca and I have been on ever since.
Yeah. And I think, as a 10-year-old running around the White Mountains with like 8 of your best friends with backpacks, it was honestly the best. It was the freedom, and then also being outside. And it's still some of my best memories. And ever since those trips, my mom and I have been avid hikers all throughout Vermont and New Hampshire, Maine. Really, anywhere we go, we're always looking up on all trails if there's a hike nearby to do, if we're looking to kill time.
That's beautiful. And I see as you're talking, Becca, you're just kind of glowing. I can really see as you're connecting with those experiences, how much joy that brings you. And I just can't imagine how awesome that has actually been for the mother-daughter relationship, that you guys can actually kind of get out and execute a trip. And, because sometimes we are not in our best selves, right? 2 or 3 days in on a backpacking trip, and we're tired and we're hungry and things hurt. And, so how have you navigated, that kind of mother-daughter relationship out on the trail? I'm super curious about that.
Go ahead, Becca.
I don't know. I guess I would say we have a pretty special relationship. But we used to play like trail games when we would get super bored, like, oh, what candy would you rather have for the rest of your life? Reese's or Sour Patch Kids? Or would you rather do this or that? Just to like kind of keep some mindless talk going. And it was actually during the pandemic, we were all home, like a lot of people. And like almost everyone else, we spent a lot of time outside. And it was actually on a 4-day section hike. My mom and I were hiking, and it's kind of where our business idea branched from. So we were hiking on the AT, and I had my period to deal with on the hike. And as I was going, I was just a little frustrated because when I had bio breaks, I could never find my hygiene care products. Everything was super disorganized in my bag. And then I didn't know what to do with the stuff. I obviously wanted to carry it out, but I don't want to put it next to my peanut butter and jelly sandwich either, So, so then I started thinking, and I'm like, Mom, like, I feel like as women, we can be better for women. Like, how is there not a product that can help women manage their hygiene needs, whether it be your period or just wipes in general on the trail? So then we started brainstorming. We had 3 more days of hiking, like 8 hours a day. And we just kind of started piecing together our little business plan. As fun. It was fun. Good pastime. And then we ended up coming through with it.
Wow. That is a great story. A great story. and it isn't amazing, right? When you're out and you have all the hours and all the days and you're on your feet, how much kind of creativity kind of comes through, right? These like ideas and the flow of things. It's really kind of magical. So yeah, so tell me about the product. Tell me about the product. Tell me about your journey, about these personal hygiene things. I can remember my backpacking kind of 101 weekend, and it was women only. It was just women. And, the biggest not anxiety, but the biggest worry was poop. How am I going to poop? How am I going to pee? How am I going to stay clean? How am I going to deal with the whole period thing? And we had some super simple, basic kind of tools, like literally a baggie with duct tape on it. But it sounds like you have taken it to a whole nother level. So yeah, tell me about the product.
Well, you're right, Kate. When we came back after that hike, we started researching, what was really out there on the market. And even if you went to very well known blogs about hiking with your period, the best that there was really out there to suggest was Ziploc bags, where you could take a black Sharpie, and it would probably take you about an hour to sit there with a black Sharpie and black out a Ziploc bag. Another option was to take a Ziploc bag and line it with tin foil. I mean, I can't imagine what this would look like in your pack after a couple of uses. You'd probably have a big wad of tin foil in a bag, or duct tape. And those are all solutions that, of course, are out there and they've been used for years successfully, but none of them are really sustainable. You're putting a lot of plastic, plus plastic with duct tape. I mean, that will never decompose in the landfills. So that's really when we started thinking there's got to be a better way.
Yes, you're right. And I'm feeling so guilty right now because that is my go-to, the Ziploc baggie with kind of duct tape. But you're right. Yeah. So you are also big stewards, right? I mean, you are true believers in the leave no trace, and you take that really, really seriously. And you've added that into your kind of the manufacturing part of your product. So again, tell us a little bit about the product and how you're getting it out there and how you're using it personally.
Yeah, so our product is biodegradable and plant-based, and it's essentially it's like a Ziploc, but thicker, and it has an outside pocket where you can keep all your clean hygiene needs. And then on the inside pocket is where you put your used or your dirty hygiene needs. And then all you do is you can roll it up. And then it also comes with a recyclable band. And then in the end of the day, when you're done with your day hike or multi-day hike, you can toss it at a disposable trash can, or you can bring it home, wash it out, and reuse it. It's really up to you how earth friendly you want to be. But they are biodegradable and way better than plastic or tin foil and duct tape and plastic bags. So,
yeah. So you put everything in there. So you would put kind of tampons, toilet paper, wipes, whatever you would, I don't know, for me, bring home in a baggie, right? You would put in that, and then that's kind of do you use it for trash as well? Can you use it for trash? Because that's always a question, right? How are we going to pack our trash out? Do you put kind of trash in there? And how big are they? Are they different sizes? Tell me how that works.
Yeah, the bag is about 9 by 6. So you can fit quite a lot of material in there. And I certainly use it for trash. If I have a wipe, and when you're done with the wipe, you have the wipe, plus you have all the wrappers for some of the hygiene products, especially if you use tampons, you have the applicator, you have the wrapper. But even if I'm out and I'm having a quick snack and I have my wrapper from like an energy bar, instead of like saying, oh, where am I going to put this? It's so easy, especially because I always keep this pack, the Your Yuckies pack, right in the top zip part of my backpack. I can just throw the wrapper in there too. And it's just a no-brainer. And everything is, easy to dispose of when you get to a trash site. And I think, the number of bags you would need really would depend on your situation during the hike. Do you have your period or not have your period? Do you need to bring those types of hygiene products? If I'm going to go on a multi-day hike, I'd probably carry more than one. If I'm going on a single day hike, I think one is probably enough. But I think it's really kind of individual and what you need that day for your hike.
Yeah, Becca, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, and then we kind of just thought like a lot of people have 2 bags, hygiene bags they use before we came out with this product. One for their clean stuff, one for their dirty stuff. But Your Yuckies is kind of a way to consolidate everything in one. So you can just really grab and go, and you don't have to hold up the people you're hiking with. It's super easy to find. And it's just like a cute little bio pack of clean and dirty stuff in one. And there you have it.
And I know we've been focusing on women, but clearly, okay, so men don't have periods, but men poop and men pee, and some men use wipes and stuff on the trail. So it's not just for women, right? I mean, it's for all genders, and, it can be multi-use, it seems.
Absolutely. And actually, we do have a lot of male customers that use this for hiking, bike packing, which is really becoming more and more popular now. There's a need, and whenever you have a need to pack in, pack out, even if you're out hunting or fishing, everyone has that same need. Doesn't matter what your gender is.
Yeah. So let's talk about, those that don't know, let's talk about why this is so important, right? So these leave no trace principles. So let's talk about what they are. We don't have to go through them all, but the general philosophy and why this project is so important. And let's really do some advocacy about whatever you take in, you have to take out with you, right? So who wants to jump in and help listeners understand why this is so important?
Oh, well, I can start with the leave no trace. For people that aren't familiar with leave no trace, they're really they're principles, and there's 7 of them, and it really provides an easily understood framework. So to help us minimize the impact on the environment for anyone that's out in the outdoors. The organization is really based on education, because their philosophy is if they do the research and educate people, that's the way they can have the biggest impact on the environment. And through education, one person is educated, and then they pass it on to somebody else. So there's Leave No Trace ambassadors all across the country that have done a wonderful job reinforcing these principles and passing them on to others. Do you want to go through on a high level some of these principles?
Yeah, let's do that, because I was going to bring up a couple of points. So yeah, let's do a couple of the principles. That would be great.
Okay, I'll do the first one. This one I think is actually the most important, and it's easy, super easy, but so important. And that is the plan ahead and prepare. And I think anyone who does any type of hiking, this is such an important piece. And for leaving no trace, you really want to give some thought to where you're going. And you need to know the regulations. Are there special concerns for the area that you're going to be traveling in? Are there facilities there? Will you have access to toilet facilities? What are the hygiene rules? Sometimes when you're traveling, especially above tree line, you are required to carry a wag bag. They don't want you to poop or dig cat holes in the ground because of the environment. Same if you're also in like a desert terrain. So knowing what regulations are in place, I think is really, really important. And also just even scheduling your trips, based on weather and high usage. It's best to travel in smaller groups so you have less impact on the environment. And also, to stay on the trails that are there, so you're not wandering off the trail and expanding it and creating a larger trail site and into the ecosystem.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead, Becca.
Yeah, and kind of going off of staying on the trails, we can kind of talk about the second principle, which is to stay on the trail and to travel and camp on durable surfaces. So surfaces like rock, gravel, or even higher ground grass, or even snow, depending on where you are. And they kind of say, campsites are found, not made. We kind of want to use the durable ground that is already there and kind of save the habitats that are more natural so we don't, squish them down. So it's like the same concept with staying on the trail. You don't want to walk off the trail and step all over the vegetation and do damage to the ecosystems. So that's kind of the surface level of the second principle. And then the third principle is dispose of waste properly.
Yeah, that's a big one. Right? Because I don't know about you, but since COVID, and I would be judgmental, that more people have been outside on the trail, which is great. But I've also seen more trash, sadly, on the trail too, kind of wrappers and cans and, little bits and pieces here and there. And so let's talk about really that third principle. Yeah, let's talk about that.
This one is so important. And I think one of the biggest things besides disposing of your waste properly is also the impact on the environment with water sources. Whenever you do the 3 Ps, pee, poop, and period, you really want to think about your location. It's a really easy thing to remember once you remember the numbers, but you always want to be 200 feet away from a water source, your trail, or your campsite. And it's easy to remember because it's 70 large adult steps. So whenever you do any of your business and your hygiene needs, or even brushing your teeth, you always want to be that far away from those water sources, trails, or campsites.
Yeah. And then what about again, being devil's advocate here, about what about like things like banana peels and apple cores and orange peels, right? Some people think that, it's natural, it's organic. I can just throw it and the squirrels will get it or whatever. What do you guys, what would we be saying about that too?
Yeah, I know. Everyone thinks it's a great idea, but those things are not natural in the habitat. It's really not good to put them out there. One, because they don't really biodegrade that as quickly as you think they will. Plus, it attracts animals, and it attracts animals to perhaps eat or investigate foods that aren't natural for them. So it's really not good for the environment.
Yeah. So the thing that's coming up for me is now getting into the poop and the pee piece. So when you're out there for 2 or 3 days, you're going to poop, you're going to have to pee. If you're drinking because hydration is a big piece of your endurance, right? So you're hydrating properly. You really are probably peeing every 2 or 3 hours. So what is the protocol for peeing out in the backcountry? What's the protocol?
Okay, now it's time to get into the nitty gritty here. Yeah. All right. So the first P. I know it sounds really simple, but there are some steps that you really can take. And we probably do a lot of these subconsciously, but I think that it's important to kind of go through it step by step. So especially when you're following leave no trace principles. So the first thing that you need to do when you need a bio break is you need to find a suitable location. And like we talked about before, you want to be at least 200 feet away from water sources, trails, or your campsite. And this really helps prevent contamination of water sources and keeps the area clean. And so when you're hunting for the suitable location, you really want to kind of keep respect wildlife in the back of your mind. Especially like right now in Vermont, it is fat bear season. There are bears. There's only one thing on their mind. They're coming up on our deck. They're in our apple trees. They are consuming almost 20,000 calories a day. They have to fill up before hibernation. So when you're out and you're looking for your suitable location, and you're afraid of that there might be wildlife, the best thing is like, don't surprise a bear. Make noise. Clap your tracking poles, clap your hands, just kind of give them a heads up that you're coming out into their area off the trail. So you're out there, you're looking for your location. The next thing is that you really want to choose the right spot. So when you're looking for a spot, the best thing is to look for a spot with good drainage, such as gravel or sandy soil. And you really want to avoid areas that have fragile vegetation. If you are used to hiking up above the tree line, you see a lot of fragile vegetation. Sometimes there's signs around it showing you to stay off the trail or these fragile plants. So you really don't want to pick a location where you would be jeopardizing any of the fragile vegetation. All right, so you've found your spot, you've made yourself known to the animal wildlife. The next thing is that you want to position yourself properly. And I can't stress this enough. You really want to face downhill if you are on a slant, because it really prevents pee from splashing all over your shoes or clothing. So after you've done your business, the next thing you really need to think about, and there's a lot of controversy and debate on this, is to wipe or not wipe. And I know.
Right, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the wiping or not wipe, because my friends and I talk about it all the time, right? So let's because the listeners don't know, let's talk about the options here. What are the options? Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So I guess you can drip dry, right? Mm-hmm. You can bring toilet paper. You can bring biodegradable toilet paper. You can bring wipes. You can bring biodegradable wipes. Or you can use something like a Cooler cloth, which you can wipe and then you leave it on your bag to dry. So there are many options. I wouldn't say either of them are right or wrong. I think it really depends on your personal preference and what's going to make you feel comfortable and clean after your bio break.
Yeah. Yeah. Dani, go ahead.
I was going to say, don't forget leaves. There are people that are big advocates for leaves.
Right. Right. And I'm going to be honest, I tend, like 2 or 3 days in, I tend to be the leaf and twig, right? There's leaf and twigs, but you have to be super, super, super careful that, there's not, it's not like you're not using poison ivy or you're not using something that's, going to irritate that area, right? But yeah, for pee, I mean, the leaf and twig thing is actually pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah. I know some people think that's gross, but I think that's pretty cool. But you do have to be careful.
Yeah. And I think, women more than men, they just need to be a little bit more careful because they're more prone to having, pee-related hygiene and health issues like UTIs or yeast infections. So I think it's just really important to, make sure you keep clean down there. If there is a place where you can kind of clean up every night, whether it's like with a wet handkerchief or a wipe or take a dip in a lake or something, I think it really helps.
Yeah. Yeah. So pee's one thing. Pee's pretty easy, right? I mean, I think it's pretty easy because, there's not a lot of extras. What about poop? Poop is like, that was, again, in my backpacking 101, poop was a big thing. Like, oh my gosh, how are you going to poop? What are you going to do if you poop? How do you? And it is a thing. I mean, I'm sure you've been out on the trail and you've seen, like, off in the woods, there's piles of poop and there's toilet paper, right? Because people don't know what to do with the whole poop thing. Right. So let's talk poop, ladies. Yeah.
Yeah. And, when you're walking on the trail, you can always smell human poop. Like it has a distinct smell. You're walking and you're like, oh my God, like it's not animal poop, it's human poop. And you just know. And you just hold your breath and I just like sprint through.
No, I've just got a full body reaction. I'm connecting with that memory and I'm getting full, I think I'm going to puke. Yeah. It's gross, totally gross. Yes. So it is important to deal with the poop appropriately for sure. So yeah, let's talk about how we deal with poop appropriately.
I can start off the poop conversation, but like we kind of mentioned before, like the biggest thing is to plan ahead. So if you know what hike you're going on, like see if there are facilities there, because established facilities are the most environmentally friendly option, because the stewards have figured out a system how to take the poop and like make it into manure and bring it back into the soil. And then also sometimes, depending on where you're hiking, you're not allowed to dig a cat hole and leave your poop, and you have to bring a wag bag. So it's really important to understand, okay, where am I hiking? Where can I poop? It's a big thought to have. And then if you are allowed to dig a cat hole, you obviously don't need any facility, and you just find a nice spot that is, 70 steps away from a water source, and you bring your little shovel. You'd want to dig around 6 to 8 inches deep and about 6 inches in diameter. And then you just peacefully do your business in the hole, and you cover up your waste with soil and organic leaves, sticks to help it decompose. And then you just pack out your toilet paper or any of your wipes. You don't want to bury all that stuff with your waste. That's like a really big thing.
Yeah. So I'm going to take time out. So I do want people to hear that, right? The poop can go in the hole, right? Because that will eventually kind of biodegrade, but the toilet paper and the wipes cannot. That has 100% has to be kind of packed out and thrown away once you're off trail. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and if people are worried and concerned, I don't want to put my poopy toilet paper and carry it out. Even though the plastic bag is, sealable and it kind of traps the odors, there's ways that you can kind of do a little extra. You can put coffee grounds or a dry tea bag in your waste bag, and it kind of helps cut down on any odors that you might have too. And so I found that that's a really good tip.
Yeah, that's a great tip. The other thing it just kind of came up for me, if you don't have a little poop, I don't know, that shovel thing, right? Poop thing. If you're really trying to pack light and really reduce the weight, you can use the end of your trekking pole, right? You can use your trekking pole to kind of dig and get that kind of hole going, right? So again, there's lots of tools you can use when you're out there. You don't have to have any special equipment, but if you've got the trekking poles, and that works pretty well too.
Yeah, I mean, you could use a stick too. You could find like a big stick if you needed to.
Yeah. So then, so we've covered the poop and we've covered the pee. So periods, I guess, how do you handle the periods out there?
Becca, this is all you.
The periods. It is great. And I'm really happy that people have started talking about this online, because it has been a huge problem, especially like when I was a teenager, just experienced my first period in the outdoors. It was a nightmare, to be honest. I just didn't know what to do. So it's really awesome that people are talking about it, but there's a lot of controversy on what method is the best method. Some people say tampons. So
tell us, 'cause I don't know. I'm beyond periods at this point, so it's not on my mind. So tell me. I want to know. I'm curious. What's the controversy, and tell me more about that.
Yeah, so it's kind of a controversy between two things. One is tampons and pads, and the other is using a menstrual cup. And so people are saying, you should lean more towards menstrual cup because it's less waste, which I've used all three methods, and they're all great. The only difficulty with the menstrual cup is you have to make sure you sanitize it when you take it out properly, or else you're going to have some kind of infection when you insert it back up in you. And, you really have to plan out your water source on the trails and make sure water's flowing is another thing. So there's not really a right answer.
All right. I have a question.
Yes.
I'm super curious. So this is This is like a totally ignorant question, I guess. So the menstrual cup, does it stay in the whole time? Like it just catches the flow the whole time, and then you have to like change it once a day, or you change it at night, and then you have to rinse it all out in the river or stream or some. Yeah, you can see my face. I'm not happy with this.
Yeah.
How is rinsing that cup in the water, in the stream? How is that sanitizing, right? I mean, we're not going to drink the water, right? We have to filter, and how is that leave no trace, right? When, I don't know. So questions, a lot of questions.
Yes, I'll answer the first half and then I'll pass it to Dani. But so the first half, how long can you leave the cup in? It really depends on how heavy your flow is. Some people with lighter flows can leave it in for 12 hours. But if you have a heavier flow, you might have to change it twice or even 3 times a day, which is honestly just more cleaning. And it's easy to do it in the shower, but if you're out in the woods, it's a little harder.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you do change it, it's just like poop. You still need to dig a cat hole, and you need to put the contents of your menstrual cup in the menstrual blood into the cat hole and bury it. So very similar to poop. So it's the same concept. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people do say they can get 12 hours out of it. But like you said, Kate, I think what Becca said about the water source is you just need to make sure that you have enough water source so you can filter the water on top of what you need to drink, because then you could just use a little biodegradable soap and water from your water bottle to wash it and sanitize it, and then reinsert it and then wash your hands again, and then you're all done. So it is needing a little extra water for those type of sanitation needs that you have to think about.
Yeah. So that feels like a lot of planning ahead for me, right? So you have to know your water sources, you have to know your body, you have to know kind of what you're comfortable with. You're going to have to plan a little extra, right? If you're having your period and you're using the cup on the trail. Yeah. All right, let's move on. So we've got the cup thing. Now we're moving to tampons and pads.
Yeah, I mean, it's really whatever you're comfortable with. You have biodegradable options, and then you have other options that aren't biodegradable. But in the end of the day, it's your body, and whatever is going to make you feel comfortable hiking and allows you to keep going outside and in doing outdoor activities, right? Like your period shouldn't stop you from going camping. So whatever you want to choose, go for it. Just make sure to pack it out correctly. I think that's the biggest thing.
Well, again, let's talk about, packing out correctly. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to add there, besides tampons and pads, there's also period underwear. Do you want to talk a bit about that, Becca?
Let's do that. Yeah, tell me about that. I am learning so much today. I hope listeners are too. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so period underwear, they're usually a little better for lighter flows. And so you just put these underwear on, and the underwear captures the flow. And then after your day of hiking, after the 12 hours or 10 hours, similar to the menstrual cup, you have to take water, filter it, wash it out with biodegradable soap, and then you just let them dry. And then, you usually have 2 pairs. So when one's drying, you slip your other period underwear on, and then you just keep swapping them.
Okay, so I have to laugh. You know what's coming up for me? I have a grandson, right? He's not toilet training anymore, but he had these big kind of training pants, right? And if you have an accident, the pants get wet, and you rinse them out, and you wash them again. And is it like that? Like the kids like training? Yeah. Okay.
Well, actually, if going back to pee, there's another type of underwear, but actually, I think this could be game changing for women my age. especially if you've had a lot of children and had childbirth. A lot of women our age have the problem with a little bit of leakage, urine leakage, when they're doing physical activity. But a lot of companies are finally listening to women and what they need. And a lot of these are women-founded companies coming up with these brands for leak-proof underwear. And I think that they could be game-changing because maybe you just have a little bit of leakage, but you could put these on, feel super comfortable hiking, take them off, wash them out, and you're good to go. And so just like the period underwear and all these other things, it's just removing one more barrier that might be keeping women from enjoying the outdoors.
Yeah, I love you. Thank you because honestly, I'm not at this leaking stage yet, so that's not in my world, but I know that is a thing, and especially, probably 60s, 70s, 80s, right? That maybe gets more pronounced. So thank you so much for bringing that up and B, helping listeners with a product that might help with that. And I love that message about let's reduce all the barriers. Let's reduce the barriers about, the poo, the pee, the periods, the leaks, the whatever, right? Let's really work on reducing those barriers. How cool. Yeah. Yeah. So is there anything else I missed that I need to know? Any other products out there or anything that you guys have come across that listeners, could be really helpful for listeners? Yeah, Dani.
There's a product. I'm sure you're familiar with the Kate. They used to go by She Fly, but now they're called Nara, and it's a pants for women that zip completely from the front of the fly all the way to the back. So this is great for women. Especially if you're in a place where it's kind of hard, maybe there's a lot of people around or it's hard to find a discreet place. You don't have to pull your pants down to pee. You can just kind of pop a squat, unzip, and discreetly do your business and then zip back up. Or even if it's cold or rainy and you really don't feel like having to pull your whole pants down, I think pants like this is game changing. And once again, it's a brand. They're founded by two women from Vermont originally, but, listening to what women need and trying to make things easier and more accessible for enjoying the outdoors.
Yeah, I love that. So as you were talking, I think that's wonderful. I can just see that being so helpful. But there's also the P styles, right? The P styles and the P styles, right? That women can use these plastic things. And, Sally that was on the podcast, she uses the P style. You can use this plastic thing and it's kind of like a penis, right? And you pee through it. Any experience with that? Tell listeners about that. Because for me, that's a mess. That is a total mess. I just can't find it. Pee's going everywhere. It's not good. But
it's a funnel. It's a funnel. Yeah.
So I'm a simple squat in the woods gal, but everyone is different. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I remember when I first saw this, I thought it was a joke. Like I didn't believe it was, but I mean, I've never tried it, but I would be curious to try it just to see what it was like. But whatever works for you.
Yeah. So can someone do a better job describing what that is, the P style? Can one of you help listeners describe what, if you haven't seen it, can you help describe what a P style is?
It's kind of, well, the ones I've seen, they're kind of like a funnel that you just place, over yourself. And then it kind of allows you to pee kind of like a man standing up, and it directs your urine out and away from you. And it just, that's basically what it is. And I know they even have certain ones, like if you're doing extreme backpacking and it's really cold, you can actually pee in your sleeping bag using this into some kind of like container. I can't imagine. I think you would have to practice at home, but these products do exist out there.
Yeah, definitely practice at home for sure. Yeah. And the P style, the nice thing is about that you can just kind of shake it out, right? And it goes back into its little container. And then I'm guessing you wash it at some point, right? But yeah, okay. All right. So we have lots of products, right? Lots of options. So if there's a listener that's coming to the trail for the first time, right? And they're anxious about the pee and the poop and whatever. What are a couple of tips that you might give somebody for their first time out?
Yeah, I think if my number one tip is going back to the number one leave no trace principle, and that is prepare ahead of time. Know where you're going. Are there going to be bathroom facilities there? Are you going to be near a state park where there's lots of bathrooms? You're doing a quick hike. You don't really have to bring as much. But if you're doing a longer hike, know what you need, know where you're going, and kind of prepare ahead of time.
Yeah. And I think for me, my biggest tip is when you're first out there, just remember it's not a race. It's your own trip. Make it fun. Hike at your own pace. And just, again, plan ahead and pack appropriately, especially, if it's your first time doing kind of a more high stress activity level. Sometimes it can trigger your body to do weird things if that's make your cycle come earlier or other body fluid things may happen. So yeah, just know your limits. It's not a race. Just enjoy it.
Yeah, I love that. So what about some tips for people, like for the other personal hygiene? So teeth brushing and just kind of wiping up and trying to freshen up a little bit, especially again, when you're 2, 3, 4 days, really, and you haven't had access to bathrooms and showers. And so what are some tips? What are your personal favorite tips? Maybe we can all share a little bit about your personal favorite tips for kind of freshening up and, not stinking too badly.
Personally, especially if I'm doing overnight, after we get to a camp, usually we camp where there's a water source, because usually we're near a shelter or a lean-to, and there's always a water source. And I love to, kind of wash up near a stream, with the fresh water and a cloth, or I have these wipes that I like to use that are unscented, because, usually we're in bear country, and pH balanced, so they're good for women. And yeah, I like to, put a fresh pair of underwear on, clean up, put a fresh jogging bra back on, get into my whatever I'm going to sleep in. I'm kind of high maintenance, so I don't sleep in the clothes that I'm hiking in. but that's my routine. But everyone has their own thing, and I probably pack too many things because I have my special routine. But go ahead, Becca. You're laughing.
I think we're great business partners, but opposite hiking styles. So I just kind of embrace the smell and the whole atmosphere of it. And honestly, I think after day 3, I stopped smelling. Maybe it's just because my nose is used to it, but I think my biggest thing is I just always make sure to have extra pairs of socks, because taking off your boots and socks at the end of the day is the best feeling. The best. But no, I just do a quick wipe down and then embrace the stench.
Yeah, I'm with Becca, you and I are kind of similar. So for me, I when I'm out there, it's like, okay, I'm not going to wash, I'm not going to bath, I'm not going to worry about anything, and I love bandanas, right? So I have a bandana, and at the end of the day, I might, do a little bit of a kind of a sponge bath, but no soap, but just water, generally camping by a water source. I'll get the pits, right? And I'll get, other bits and pieces. I'll wipe my feet off, because I know we're not talking about feet, but feet, right? Your feet are so much more important than the way you smell, right? So I'm really going to get my feet. I'm going to put fresh socks on. I'm going to wash out my underwear, and I'm going to hang it, and they'll be ready for the next day. Wash out my socks, hang them ready for the next day. And then I embrace the stink. And I also love to pee in the woods. I don't know. There's something primal, right? Primal about sitting there, and you're in the woods, and you just you connect with this primal kind of energy. So I love to pee in the woods and stuff like that. So that's me. But like you said, there's tons of ways. I guess the message is Get out there, experiment, have fun, see what works for you.
Yes, there's so many different options. And I feel like everyone can agree, though, peeing in the middle of the night, leaving your tent is like the most terrifying thing. I purposely try to like pee at least 3 times before I go to bed because I never want to leave the tent.
Yeah, that is a good point. Yeah, doesn't bother me too much, but I just don't want to get up and get cold. For me, it's not so much the peeing. I don't want to get out of my cozy little tent and my cozy little sleeping bag. I don't want to put my shoes on, and right, it's a whole rigmarole. So yeah, if you can pee before and get night, that's probably a good tip too. Yeah. So what a fun conversation. Is there anything else you guys want to add before I ask you my favorite kind of sage advice question? Anything you want to add or share we didn't cover today?
Well, this has been a really fun conversation. Things that people usually don't talk about, but, we all do it. So, it's okay to talk about.
Great to talk about. And the leakage thing, that's like, you have really increased my awareness. So thank you. Oh, and the menstrual cup thing, that's like, I'm still like, any visual, so I'm like that too, but So I'm going to ask you both. So, maybe Becca, right? What if you were to give some kind of sage advice for somebody really, wanting to live intentionally? What might you share with listeners? One piece of sage advice.
I think my one piece of advice, and my one piece of advice would be, especially with social media nowadays, is with everything you see, don't play into stereotypes. And what I mean is when you're scrolling on Instagram, you see all these images of hikers, for example, and you kind of create this image of what you think a hiker has to look like. But that's not the case, Like if I want to hike with my hair down and earrings on, then I can do it. I don't have to wear a baseball cap and have this whole hiker vibe, So I think that's why I love that. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's actually really important. Yeah, thank you. And then Dani, how about you? Same question.
I think, especially as I get older, I've been trying to have like my motto become just say yes. If someone asks me to do something, I'm just going to say yes and not create these barriers right away in my head. So I'm going to say yes and then just figure it out, because it's so easy to be like, oh, I don't know. It's not the right time. I don't have the right gear. I don't fit into my gear. Things like that. There's enough real barriers from keeping people from doing things that I think these are artificial ones that, it's so easy to create for yourself in your head. So my new motto, and all my friends laugh because they know it, is like, if someone asks me to do something now, I'm just like, yes.
I love that spirit too, that energy, right? Yeah, I love that, because it doesn't stop just because you're 50, 60 or 70, right? There's no age limit, right, on getting out and hiking or backpacking or whatever, right? So it is that saying yes kind of mentality. So I love that. Yeah, thank you. So what a fun conversation. It has been a lot of fun. Where can people find you and learn more about you? And obviously, I will put links to the show notes to the products and the things we talked about today. But where can people find and connect with you both?
So you can go to our website, youryuckies.com, or we're also on Instagram with your_yuckies. And, we just talk more about periods, poop, and pee on our Instagram, and we give tips. And we've just kind of been creating this kick-ass group of women hikers. So
nice. Yeah. And is that the same that goes for you, Dani? Same place, same youryuckies.com? Or if people want to reach out to you individually, where can they find you, Dani?
Yes, the same Rebecca said. We're in this together. We're on this journey, yet another journey. We're not sure where this is going to take us, but it's been a lot of fun. So those are the two best places to reach either of us. And we're happy to answer any questions, after the show. If people have a personal question about, their own situation, we're happy to give a go and try to help people out.
Yeah. And it is, I love what you mentioned about community, right? A lot of this work is about building community of like-minded people, building community that are going to support people kind of getting outside and helping people move along, lifting people up, right? Versus kind of creating barriers. So community building is really important. So check out their product, check them out on Instagram, and I'll make sure I put everything in the show notes. And just get out there, have fun, say yes, and it will take care of itself. Thank you guys so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having us. This has been a lot of fun this morning.
Thanks so much for listening. I truly appreciate you and your time. I love to hear from listeners, so connect with me at katechampionauthor.com. Remember to grab your free hiking guide, and please take a quick moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the show. Thanks so much. Take care. Until next time. Hey, me again. Just a reminder, this podcast should not be considered professional advice. It's also not a substitute for mental, physical, or any other healthcare-related treatment. For any questions about your condition and or concerns, please contact a fully licensed healthcare professional. Thank you.